Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Thomas's Reading Room. We're doing Trip Across the Pond, and we did Chapter 13. Now we're ready to do Chapter 14. This is Trip Across the Pond, Personal Vietnam Experience, author Thomas Dugan, that's me, and I did the cover, I did the design of this cover. Actually, I've done almost everything this self. I started Bentworth Press Publishing Company in 1990. Let's get on with our adventures in Vietnam. Driving Battalion Major Erin Pulsfer, and the camp gets mortared today. One thing about Battalion Major Erin Pulsfer that immediately became apparent to me was his absent-mindedness. When phoning someone and a person answered, Major Erin Pulsfer would say he was the person that he was phoning, that he would like to speak with Major Pulsfer. Quickly he would correct himself. I mean, I'm Major Pulsfer. I would like to speak with Colonel Rubar's Jacquard. Other times he would call me the name of his previous driver, and his previous driver my name. Even so, Battalion Major Erin Pulsfer was one hell of a good person in my book. To a great degree, our battalion commander could never be considered Battalion Major Erin Pulsfer's wit. I was learning more about Major Erin Pulsfer that brought me to honor the opportunity to drive for him. One evening there was a party at one of the two villages, Dao Tiang, and the battalion commander did not have time to go to such things, so Battalion Major Erin Pulsfer was selected. Some influenceable people flew in, riding in a couple of small airplanes for the event. One small airplane was from France, the other from Germany. The small airplane from Germany seemed especially interesting to me. It had two propeller-driven engines that were mounted to a wing that ran across the bottom, extending perhaps 3 feet from both sides of the airplane. There was one wheel mounted directly underneath each engine, and the third wheel was mounted under the nose of the small airplane. The main wing went across the top of the airplane. I had not seen an airplane like it. I drove Major Erin Pulsfer to a compound surrounded by a 7-foot wall. It had broken glass of many different colors placed in cement along the top of it. Stopping in front of the main building, where things were already happening, there was a woman standing alone. Her face seemed creamy, beautiful, and it was without expression. Perhaps she was part of Vietnamese, though the rest had to be Chinese. To be able to describe her thoroughly, I would be at a loss. She seemed simply beautiful. I knew it had been said, beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. However, I also knew there was a beauty that had nothing to do with what anyone thought. Battalion Major Erin Pulsfer got out of the Jeep, and I drove to where other Jeeps and drivers were waiting. A Vietnamese soldier handed me an imported quart of beer from Germany. The night was dark, the sky full of stars, and there was an almost full moon. The temperature was somewhere around 90 degrees, making for a perfect evening. I had fallen in love with those tropical evenings ever since the first few nights down at the Saigon docks. Like those evenings experienced at the Saigon docks, that night was full of enchantment and mystery. It seemed like not too much time had gone by. I had finished the quart of beer only a few moments ago, and Battalion Major Erin Pulsfer walked outside the main door. Quicker than a wink, I was in my Jeep and in front of him. We exchanged a grin, he stepped into my Jeep. I drove expertly out of the compound back to battalion headquarters. Major Erin Pulsfer was a man of few words, and seldom spoke. However, I knew he was always thinking. He had little time for small talk, and that was okay with me. "Good night, Dugan," he said in a sure and soft tone as he left the Jeep. "Good night, sir," I said quietly. Often in the following days, I would drive Battalion Major Erin Pulsfer to a meeting at the brigade headquarters. The rest of the time, I would drive Freddie somewhere, clean the Jeep, have the motor pool check it out, or find some place to goof off. One of the few complaints that many of us soldiers had was when we picked up our laundry. It stunk with piss. A few of us guessed that when the Vietnamese washed our clothes, it must have been where they also went to the bathroom. After we put on our under and outer clothes, the piss would burn our skin. One day, Battalion Major Erin Pulsfer told me that we would be going to a village some 20 miles away. He asked if that would be too much, too dangerous for me. I told him there was not a place that I could not or would not take him. He smiled as he stepped into my Jeep and we were off. Major Erin Pulsfer directed me as to what roads to take. The roads were very muddy and in some places they were nearly impassable. Coming back on the return trip, we took another road that became more difficult to drive my Jeep on. I put my Jeep into four-wheel drive and the right foot on the accelerator to the floor. Hanging on to everything we were worth, we finally reached a better part of the road. We finally arrived at battalion headquarters in one piece. After leaving Major Erin Pulsfer at battalion headquarters, I drove to the plantation maintenance area, to the wash area, and washed, cleaned the mud, whatever off the Jeep. Driving back to battalion headquarters and leaving my Jeep parked at the side entrance as usual, I walked to the web talk. There were a few soldiers there and we were talking when suddenly we heard the whistle of mortar rounds close by. Too fucking close. Shit. I about killed myself falling over chairs in a cot attempting to get close as I could to the wall next to the sandbags. Damn. There came another one. It sounded like it landed on the other side of the sandbags. There came another round, then another. Although it was a few minutes and the motoring of the base camp had stopped, it seemed like eternity to me. Those of us in the web talk got ourselves together, checking to see that everyone was all right. Then we walked outside to converse with other soldiers at battalion headquarters. Charlie had walked mortar rounds beginning at the airstrip and accurately walked the rounds through our area and up to the Huey pad. Between the two buildings at battalion headquarters and next to the sidewalk that connected the two, there was a mortar round buried halfway into the ground. It was a dud. Should it have gone off, there definitely would have been some problems. Walker had told Mark and me that a Huey was attempting to lift off and a mortar round fell between the rotor blades as they were turning. It blew the hell out of the Huey. We did get some Hueys into the air out to where Charlie may have been firing from, and with the help of the artillery we had stopped Charlie, at least for the time being. Let's go and have one beer, okay? I said to Walker and Mark. Okay, only one, though, and that's it, Walker said, with a smile. Mark and I looked at each other, smiled, then the three of us got into my Jeep and headed for the beer hall. A couple of days later, a full bird came to our camp and I was chosen to drive for him. Meeting him at the Snoopy pad, we went to the brigade headquarters. After an average period of waiting time, I drove us throughout the camp area. We were traveling on a road and about to go by an armor unit. "What unit is that to our right?" the full bird asked as he looked straight ahead. There was not an idea, though quickly looking out of the corner of my eye, I saw a sign and read it in record time. 77th Armor Unit, sir. The full bird continued to look straight ahead, and out of the corner of my eye I could see an approving smile on his face. "Good thing you saw that sign in time," he said. Saying nothing, I gave a little smile back. The full bird and I passed a few places of interest, then we went to battalion headquarters. When the full bird was ready to leave, I drove him to the Snoopy pad. Getting out, the full bird smiled. "Take care, Specialist. Is it Dugan?" "Yes, sir," I said, smiling, then drove away. Back at the battalion headquarters, I hung around until 5, then walked to the web talk. After talking with Walker and Mark, we went to the mess hall to get something to eat. Finished, we went back to the web talk, then the three of us walked to battalion headquarters. We got into my Jeep and went to the beer hall, after we agreed that we would have only one drink, of course. As usual, we became drunker than 40 thieves. Not too drunk, though, to know that it was beddy time as we headed down the road for home. The next day, in reporting to battalion headquarters, Freddie told me that I would be driving the captain of headquarters company and the sergeant major to the Snoopy pad. The captain was an interesting sort of person that probably never drew a sober breath the entire time that he was in Vietnam. He had a human skull that he named Reggie sitting atop a refrigerator at his dwelling. The captain would place his false teeth next to Reggie before retiring to the evening. In the morning, when the captain got up and walked over to get his false teeth, he would look at Reggie and say, "You know, Reggie, you got more fucking teeth than I have." I was told that when the captain returned to the United States, he would be drifted. When the time came to drive the captain and the sergeant major, I got in my Jeep and drove around to the front of the building. The sergeant major climbed in the back of my Jeep, then the captain got in and sat opposite of me. As I was about to drive us away, a sergeant in charge of the clerks walked out onto the porch. He mumbled something to the captain that was inaudible to the three of us. The captain looked at the sergeant. "What the fuck did you say?" The sergeant was feeling a little scared now and looked as if he wished he would not have said anything. He again said something that was inaudible. The captain kept looking at the sergeant for a couple seconds. Then he said, "Fuck you!" I immediately began to drive, and I kept looking to the left, doing everything possible to keep from laughing, even holding my breath. We arrived at the Snoopy pad, and the captain and sergeant major thanked me, got out, and then I drove back to battalion headquarters. Dear Dad and Mom, July 4th. July 4th. Familiar date. How is everything at home? Fine, I trust. Received a letter from you today, and a package sometime back, but I think I've already mentioned it in an earlier letter. As far as the film and the bobs are concerned, I won't be needing them anymore. So don't send anymore. 127 film. This is what I've done. I went and bought a movie camera. So from now on, I'll be shooting movie film. I can't get movie film here, so you'll have to send me some movie film from home. I'm putting a money order in this letter so you can get me some film. I'll send enough money for 4 cartridges at a time. Continue. July 9th, 1967. I had to stop this letter, so we'll try again. When you go to purchase this film, you must know that my movie camera is a Canon Super 8, number 518, and the film is a cartridge with the name, and this is what you asked for, Super 8, KA464, Type A. The movie camera is a 50-foot cartridge. I guess that should take care of that. Only hurry. Because I have only 157 days left in the inferno of hell. I received a package from you today. Everything looked very tasty. It seems like days get shorter and shorter, and all I think about is home. I hope you had a rather nice 4th of July. Makes you kind of think back a little. Of course, it makes a young man like me a little homesick during the time I'm thinking about it. Well, close for now. Write as I like to hear from you. P.S. 157. Your youngest and one love, Tom. Thank you, folks, for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. It was all true. And our next chapter will be Operation Public Relations, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy that one too. And I hope you feel free. I know we've got 14 chapters coming in here now, and that's a lot of chapters to sit and listen to, but I sure hope you have the time, or you can take the time, because I think it'll be well worth it. Now, on the other note is if you ever got to the point you'd actually want to own a copy of the book for yourself and have it autographed, I can do that for you. All you have to do is to write a letter to 5111 North 10th Street, McAllen, Texas, 78504, and give me your address and give me a donation, whatever you can afford. I don't really care, and I'll autograph it and ship it to you. Thank you, and thank you very much. We'll see you for the next chapter.